Well, Davie McCall is basically a criminal. He was born to be a criminal, although he doesn't really want to be. If you scratch him deeply enough, you'll find that he doesn't want to be in the life, but he's trapped by his past, by his present, by the people that he knows, peer pressure, if you like. But he's very good at it. He's not a thief as such, he's not a killer, but he is what we would call in Glasgow and probably elsewhere a hard man. He's very handy. He can mete out the violence and he can do it without thinking twice, and that makes him very useful to some of the more forward-thinking criminals in the city who are looking to expand their empire. When we first met him in Blood City, he was 18 years of age, and even then he wanted out. He was under the wing of Joe Klein, who was one of the city's biggest gangsters. Joe Klein taught him various rules. That is, that you don't harm women, you don't harm children, you don't harm animals, and you try and keep civilians, or straight arrows as they call them, out of anything as much as you can. And Davie adheres to those rules as stringently as he can. He doesn't harm women, he doesn't harm children. Sometimes straight arrows will wander into it, and sometimes he will be forced to threaten them, but it goes against his grain. And as the series progresses, there are 4 of them, we're now going to hit the 3rd one, more and more he's kicking against it and trying to pull away, but more and more the circumstances conspire to keep dragging him into it. Now his psychology, if you want to call it that, is that he's a good man in a bad man's skin, if you like. He can walk the walk, he can talk the talk, but he doesn't like doing it. But the trick that I try and pull off is that we as the reader know that, but nobody else does. He's a very hard character to write because he doesn't say a lot. Everything's internalised with him, so that's why the reader knows what's going on, but nobody else in his world knows, apart from a certain few who know him well. But the stage we're at with book 4, because it does proceed in real time, the first one was set in 1980, the second one, Crowbait, jumped forward to 1990, with the third one we're at 1995. And the criminal world in Glasgow has completely changed. Drugs have really taken hold by this stage. He doesn't really like it, but because of events in book 2 he has gone along with it. And now a gang war that both the police and some other criminals had long feared is about to erupt in the city, and it starts off, as these things quite often do, with what is a small event, if you like. It's still a pretty nasty killing at the beginning, but it's just a small killing, and that will grow and grow and suck in a lot of people. So book 3, Davie's in the thick of it, again not really wanting to be, but he has, as Liam Neeson says, taken a particular set of skills, and everybody wants to use them.
Yeah, I'm very interested in the fact that you bring to your fiction writing a fair amount of experience as a true crime writer, and you obviously had fabulous contacts in the police, and did you also have contacts in the underworld as well?
Yes. I during the time that I was writing the true crime, particularly the book about the ice cream wars, I met a lot of criminals, and very pleasant people they are too. Believe it or not, some of the nicest people I know have been criminals in the past. A lot of them are now going straight because they're getting on in years. But yes, I've met them. I had to do all sorts of things. I was also doing precognition work at the time for Glasgow solicitors, so that brought me into contact not only with police but also forensic scientists. And,
what does that really involve, precognition?
They don't do it as much now, but back then, it's the idea under Scots law is that they don't need to. The prosecution don't need to hand over the witness statements in a criminal case. What they gave you at that stage was a list of witnesses that they might call in any particular case, and the defence agent, the solicitor, had to then interview them, take a precognition, if you like. It was really just an interview, taking a statement, but it wasn't admissible in court. So in other words, a witness, I could go out to see a witness who was going to be called in a murder case, and I would say to them, right, what did you see, what happened? They could tell me a pack of lies, and it wouldn't make a blind bit of difference, because what they said to me was not admissible. The solicitor could not then say, but that's not what you told my agent. So the system was a bit strange back then. I think it's changed now, and I haven't done it for almost 20 years. But then, so that took me out into the streets of Glasgow, into the schemes. I was banging in doors at 11 o'clock at night because the solicitors I was working for were particularly enthusiastic about their work. So it wasn't just a question of following the prosecution witnesses. I had to go and find my own. So it was banging in doors and talking to all different types of people, going into pubs, just tracking people down. If you were told, right, that Geordie Smith was there, he saw it, and Geordie Smith's not on the prosecution list, so you've got to find him and say, right, well, why is he not there if he was there? So it's that sort of thing. So that's what a precognition is. But that taught me a lot. It taught me how they spoke in a lot of ways, how a lot of people think. Gave me a lot of ammunition, if you want to call it that, research fodder for the books. I mean, and I've got to stress that the books are thrillers. They're not documentaries in any way, although they're grounded in reality and a very, very firm base of reality. They are still thrillers. They are still designed to entertain. Crime thrillers, yes. And they are still designed to entertain and excite and hopefully make people turn the page and want to get to the next one. So I don't want anybody to think that, oh, this is going to be a dull true crime thing. It's not. It's
oh no, I shouldn't think that
very
it would be dull. But I'm interested to know if you. I remember reading Joe Jackson's autobiography
Chasing
Killers, and in which he mentioned becoming attuned to people when people were lying. He talked about the little tells.
Mm-hmm.
And I wondered, have you noticed those sorts of things? Did you become attuned to liars' characteristics?
You get a sense that people are lying. They're not very good at it. There are some people who are very good at it. But those that aren't good at it, you do get a sense that they're not telling you the whole truth. They get very evasive. One of the tricks was to go back and ask the same question again and see if they gave the same answer. There's lots of wee tricks that you could do, but really it wasn't up to me to trip them up. It didn't matter what I got. Whatever they said, I wrote down and put into the statement. It was then up to the solicitor, or if it was a High Court case, the advocate or the QC, to try and trip them up. But I would put wee notes. So I would have to give my take of the witness. Was this witness telling the truth? Was this witness reliable? What did I think of their eyesight? That sort of thing. So you had to try and judge that thing to pass that sort of thing to pass on to the defence. Although I was paid by the defence, I wasn't there to defend anybody. I was there to find out what happened and then get as close to a truthful account of what these people saw as I could. And as a lot of people will tell you, the least reliable thing in any criminal case is an eyewitness account. It's unfortunate, but I think that's the way it is. And I saw it myself. 4 people would see the same thing and tell 4 different, give 4 different accounts of what they had witnessed, and they had been there. They were standing together. So it's amazing how the people see things differently. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, they've done a recent study on psychology of witnesses and how trauma or a dramatic event actually changes the narrative. They reconstruct it retrospectively. And that is quite an interesting. I mean, I wonder, that is an interesting feature of things. Can you imagine drawing that into one of your fictions? The fact that that there is nothing more unreliable than a witness.
Yes, it's something, I haven't addressed it yet, but it's obviously one of the many things that I've learned that it's at some point in the future, perhaps not the Davie McCall books because of the way they are, the structure that they are, but certainly at some point that's something that will come into some story down the line. There's so many different wee things that I've got stored away. I've barely scratched the surface yet that I can bring into some kind of story, because I've got plans for a lot more beyond Davie McCall. What will happen after book 4, I'm keeping a closely guarded secret. Nobody knows apart from me and my editor now probably what happens at the end of book 4, because it is written. But I've been asked by so many people. I go to the book launches and they ask, is Davie McCall going to continue after book 4? And I won't tell them, because the thing I'm trying to do with these books is what I call the Game of Thrones approach to crime writing, in that any character could go at any time. And I think I've already proved that with the first two. We'll see what happens in book 3, but book 4, all sorts of things will happen.
The next book in the series, The Devil's Knock, is set to be appearing in June.
Yes.
I'm wondering about the title, The Devil's Knock. Was that just sort of plucked out of the air, or why did that appeal to you as a title for the book?
It's a line, actually, and it's repeated, but it came from book 2. And one of the characters in book 2 says to Davie, when the devil comes knocking, you've got 2 choices. You either let him in, or you tell the red skin to go away. He doesn't put it quite as politely as that. And so it's in book 2, but that character comes back into book 3, and he does say it again. Do you remember, David, about when we spoke about the devil's knock? Well, basically Davie has let the devil in for book 3 because of what's happened in book 2. Events always seem, every time, it's like the line from Godfather 3, every time I think I'm out, they pull me back in. Davie just doesn't seem to quite get out. Something seems to happen to make him stay where he is, and he wonders if that's where he belongs. He does worry about it, if that's where he belongs.